and I started by saying this, that the knowledge of the system is so important to make sure that people understand everything going on.
Welcome, everybody, to the 2024 interviews for our Nevada judges. My name is John Stiles. To my left is the defense attorney, Ben Bateman, and our candidate, Mr. Jonathan Cooper. And Jonathan's candidate for North Las Vegas Justice Court Department 2, right?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I got to start off with asking you this. Why the heck would you want to be a judge?
My wife asks me that question every day, every time I have to go to a campaign event. But I want to say the reason I want to be a judge is right now I'm a hearing master. A lot of people don't know what a hearing master is. Essentially, a hearing master is very similar to a judge, only we're appointed, not elected. And we deal with a smaller amount of cases. The only type of cases I deal with right now are domestic violence protection order cases, and I've been doing that for the last 2 years. Seeing that process, as well as my experience as both a prosecutor and a defense attorney previously, has shown me the impact that a good judge can have on not only the community, but everyone that appears before them. And that kind of is why I decided that I was going to put my hat in the ring this go around.
Well, you mentioned that you were previous experience as a prosecutor, right? Worked for the DA's office, then public defender's office, and now a hearing master. So what have you learned? I mean, obviously you've probably seen it all, done it all as a prosecutor and a public defender. What surprised you, I guess, being a hearing master? Is there something you learned, or what didn't you know, or...
So I think the most interesting thing I learned over the last couple years is how to interact with people that are not represented. So at the public defender's office, obviously I was their attorney, so they were represented. At the district attorney's office, 99% of the people I dealt with were also represented as well. I think as a hearing master now, I would say the exact opposite is true. About 99% of the people I deal with do not have attorneys.
So what challenges then does that present to you, or what?
Yeah. So it's interesting, right? So you have to make sure that everyone understands the system. I think that's the first obstacle you have to overcome, because let's face it, right? Nobody really understands the system, and especially if they don't have a law degree. And I'm going to be honest with you, some attorneys don't understand the system, right?
There's a lot of attorneys with law degrees.
So to get someone to understand the system and try to explain 3 years of law school, I have 14 years of experience, trying to explain all that in a 3 or 4 minute blurb is kind of hard. But you have to do that, because if someone doesn't understand the system, there's no way that the outcome can be fair to them. And even if the outcome is fair, if the person that is actually receiving the outcome doesn't understand it and doesn't believe it's fair, then to them, they feel like the system failed them. So I want to make sure everyone understands that the system is not failing them, and we're doing the best we can for everyone.
Is there anything that you see, I guess, right now with the way Justice Court is run, or anything like any ideas, or everyone says, well, if I, ran this court, I would do it better, or I would do it this way. I'm not saying that they're run poorly now, but do you have, what stands out to you that you say, man, if I was on the bench here, this is what I would do or want to do?
Yeah, so I mean, I think North Las Vegas has made a lot of strides in the last few years moving forward, and that's obviously great. In terms of what I would do a little bit different is I want to improve our veteran treatment programs. So me being a veteran myself, being an Army veteran, it is extremely important to me making sure that we take care of our veterans. I have a good friend who is a judge in Henderson Municipal Court, and I've seen their veteran program, and I understand how well it's doing in terms of they have mentors, they have a different tiered system in place, and I think I want to implement something like that in North Las Vegas to ensure that.
Back up a little bit, maybe, I guess, explain. Some people might not understand what the Veterans Court program is and what it does.
Absolutely.
And why it's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. So generally speaking, the way the Veterans Court works is that if somebody is convicted of a crime or someone's accused of a crime, and they do have a veteran, or they are a veteran, they have the opportunity to go to a special court program called Veterans Treatment Court. And essentially, the way it works is that if they successfully complete the program, depending on the jurisdiction, the programs do vary in length, but in anywhere between 18 to 24 month program. So it's a pretty intensive program that they go through. It has counseling, it has job assistance, and ultimately, if they're able to successfully complete the program, they're able to get their record removed. So that misdemeanor offense is no longer on the record, which means that it won't necessarily affect them moving forward because they have shown that they are able to continue to be a productive member of society. So I want to improve that program, giving people additional training, bringing in other community organizations to bolster the program, getting outside of just the we're in the courtroom and we're talking to just therapists, right? Like have those veterans out in the community, have them interacting with other veterans, mentors, things like that to help them continue to grow so we don't see them in the criminal justice system again.
Just for clarification, that program in Henderson is just for misdemeanor crimes, right? They're not for felonies or gross misdemeanors or
Absolutely.
okay,
So
or nonviolent crimes as well.
Correct.
Right?
So the program I was referring to, she is at the Henderson Municipal Court, so it
Right.
would only be misdemeanor offenses. Yes.
Right.
But the district court does have a veterans court program as well, and their program is a little bit different considering they're dealing with more serious offenses.
So, from what we all hear and what we all understand is that judges are overloaded with their casework. How do we determine how many judges we need to have, or, I mean, how is that determined?
Yeah, I mean, I want to say the short answer is population density.
Okay.
So the more people we get here in North Las Vegas or in Las Vegas, the more judges we need, right?
And who decides that?
So that's a good question. It's the county in combination with the judges, right?
Okay.
So what happens is if, like for example, we just recently got some additional judges in Las Vegas Justice Court. What happens is the county population continues to grow. The judges are saying, hey, we're overloaded. This is what our caseload looks like. All the amounts of cases that the judges have is all documented, and Odyssey is the system they use. So the county can look at it and say, yeah, you're right. We do need another position because there's no way that you guys can handle this caseload. And then they go through the process of getting the additional funding. The person could be appointed initially, or they could just set it for an election for that first person to get the position. And it varies, right? So that would be different than in North Las Vegas. If it's a North Las Vegas municipal court case, then they would go through the county, the city council versus the county commission.
Gotcha.
If it's justice court. And I just want to add on to that and say that I do think our judges do an extremely hard job. I know that's a little self-serving considering that's what I'm running for. But me being a hearing master now, one thing I didn't realize is the impact and the amount of domestic violence that happens on a day-to-day basis here in the valley. And why I say by that is there's 4 of us that all we do day in and day out is domestic violence protection orders.
Really?
4 of us, and we are completely overwhelmed.
Now, is that for the entire county?
That's for the county. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
For the entire county, there's only 4 of you.
For the entire county, there's 4 hearing masters, and from 9 to 5 or 8 to 5, sometimes 8 to 8. All we hear is domestic violence protection order cases. Sometimes you have literally 65 cases in a day. And if you try to do the math to divide that out, you're trying to hear 5 or 6 cases an hour. You can't give anyone the full attention that they need. So it's they just recently actually hired. I was the 4th, so 2 years ago we got our 4th. Before that, there was only 3. So it just shows the process of them continuing to build. But even when they add more people,
you're still going to be behind.
You're still going to be behind.
You're never gonna get ahead of the game.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah.
Do you know then what's the caseload like then in say North Las Vegas, and are you able, or how do you handle 60 or 70 cases in a day as compared to what you will be doing? And do you have maybe a plan for moving cases forward? Or
Absolutely. So yeah, in North Las Vegas, one interesting thing about the Justice Court is while it is a court of limited jurisdiction, meaning that it can't handle all cases, it can only handle the cases that were statutorily given authority to handle, the caseload is still pretty voluminous and it's very wide ranging. So for example, a lot of people don't know what the Justice Court does, right? So the Justice Court, all misdemeanors that happen in unincorporated parts of North Las Vegas would go to me. So it's county, but it's still considered North Las Vegas. It comes to me. Misdemeanors that happen in incorporated North Las Vegas go to the municipal court. But all felonies that happen in North Las Vegas, regardless of where it occurs, comes to the justice court, and that's how they start out. You go through the initial arraignments, you go through the bail determinations, you go through the preliminary hearings. That's all the primary bulk of what I be doing. The criminal calendar is 4 days a week, and then 1 day a week you have a civil calendar. The civil calendar would be your small claims matters, where if somebody is suing someone, they live in North Las Vegas, they filed in North Las Vegas for any amount less than $10,000. And then you also have eviction calendar as well. And the eviction calendar is just like what it sounds. Someone's being evicted from their apartment or their home. And then essentially you're hearing the arguments regarding whether or not the eviction is lawful or not, and you're going through that process. So you have to be well versed in the not only criminal justice, but you have to be well versed in evictions, well versed in civil law in order to successfully make sure that the community is being served properly. And having all those different calendars does put a toll. You definitely have to work extremely hard, so you want to make sure that somebody that is on the bench is not afraid of hard work. And I think my record has shown that. Being a prosecutor, they were overworked. Being a public defender, they were overworked. Being a hearing master, overworked. And being a justice court judge, probably going to be overworked too. But you just got to make sure you put in the time, the effort, and always put the community first.
Wow. Goes back to his first question. Why do you want to be a judge?
Exactly. So what can be done to help alleviate that situation? You know, you spoke about the Veterans Diversion Program. Does the city of North Las Vegas have any other, you know, whether it's like drug or alcohol or something like that, diversion programs that can help reduce that burden on the judges?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are definitely diversion programs. All the justice courts in general do have the programs. For example, there is a drug court program for justice court. There's also a drug court program for district court. Little bit difference is based on either what they're pleading to or what they were initially charged with. We've already talked about the veterans program. There's also a lot of other courts that people don't really know about. Like there's a gamblers diversion program, but that's only district court if you are convicted of a crime and the reason you committed the crime, for example, you stole money from someone, it was based on a gambling addiction.
Right.
If you go through the process and actually qualify, there's a gambler diversion program. There's also the DUI courts for individuals that have issues with DUIs. There's a program to it's extremely long and an extremely intensive program to ensure that the root cause of why they're committing DUIs is actually resolved. There's also I think that's it. There's a mental health court as well. There's mental health court, and the other one's escaping me, but it's a medically assisted treatment. So if someone has some either drug addictions or some mental health concerns, they can go to that court and get medically assisted treatment to continue to help them grow as a productive member of society.
Sounds like you've done your homework.
I have. I've been in the system a long time. And like I said, being a prosecutor, I was a prosecutor for 7 years, a defense attorney for 4 years, and then doing the hearing master position. I have seen all aspects of the system on both sides, and that's why I think I am definitely the most qualified candidate for this position.
I've heard from some attorneys that they have a problem when they go up before a judge who is not really prepared to hear the case. Have you had that experience? Or don't name names, but
Of course.
I mean, is that your experience? And do you think that the root cause of that is because of the overburdening of the caseload for some of these judges?
Yeah. So I definitely have had that experience. I would say by far the vast majority of judges I've ever appeared in front of were extremely knowledgeable in the law and extremely well prepared, period. But as in any other profession, there's always going to be that odd person out. So I have seen that, and it does not do a service for the community, period. If the judge is not prepared, then they are easily either confused on the facts, which it can affect one side or the other, or if they are unaware of the law, that obviously could affect one side or the other to their detriment, and that shouldn't be okay. What the root cause of that is, I'm gonna be honest, I don't know. I've seen it very rarely, And it could have just been maybe that judge had had some other things going on personally in their life, and they just couldn't devote all their attention to that specific case or those specific cases for that day. Maybe it could be they're burnt out. Maybe it could be that they just are not well versed in the law. I don't know. Having an election process for judges, right? 99% of the people you get are great, but as with any election, you never know what you're going to get. So
That's why what we're doing here is important.
Oh, 100% agree.
It is because I know that I've heard a lot that people go into the ballot box and they're not going all the way down the ballot. You know, they'll get the top tier, but they're not voting for judges. They're not voting for their city council or their dog catcher or, you know, school board or whatever. And these are the people that affect our daily lives more than any other.
I 100% agree.
And it's more important that they get these people and get educated about who we're putting in there. So
I 100% agree.
that's just my personal opinion.
No, I agree. I think the most important elections are local elections.
Yes.
Because let's face it, right? I'm probably never going to meet the president. I would love to, never going to meet the president. But
Boy, you are crazy.
and that goes for 99% of the people in the United States, right? But if you think about it, anytime you have a traffic ticket, you're probably going to go in front of a judge. Anytime unfortunately, you get divorced, or you're going to adopt a child, you are a victim of a crime, unfortunately, or you are convicted of a crime or accused of a crime. All these things are stuff we see on a day-to-day basis, and all that goes in front of our judges. But I'm going to be honest, it's hard, right? So in just the district court alone, in family court, talking about it, we have 26 judges. I can't even name all 26 of them, and I work with them on a day-to-day basis. That's not to include the district court that's in the Regional Justice Center. I think there's 32 different departments down there. So now we're looking at, 58 judges? Again, I can probably name half of them, and I've been in the system for 14 years. That's not including your justice court judges. That's not including your municipal court judges, and that's not including your hearing masters. So I get it. It's extremely hard when you have that amount of people to be able to do your research and to be able to say this judge stands for law and order, or this judge stands for whatever the case may be. It's hard.
But shouldn't they all stand for law and order?
They should. Yes.
I mean, isn't that the whole purpose of being there?
Absolutely, you should. Does everyone? I don't know.
No,
but
yeah,
absolutely,
we're all human.
Absolutely, you should. Yes, and I want to make sure it's clear. I do stand for law and order. It's hard, and so I don't fault the public for it, and I get it. If I don't know anything about someone, it's very hard for me to look at my ballot and say, who am I going to pick? Am I just going to check the box because their name's first? Am I just going to check the box because I like their name?
Well, you saw their picture on the way to the polling.
Or I saw their picture.
I saw his picture.
Right? I don't know. And it's hard, but that's a completely different issue, and you probably have a whole show about elections versus appointments and the pros and benefits of both.
Been there, done that.
Yeah. So it's and there are pros and cons on both, right? I don't know. We're in a flawed system, so we all have to do the best we can.
But it may be flawed, but it's still better than a lot I've seen.
Oh yeah.
Yes. I mean, who among us is perfect? We all have our little quirks and flaws and stuff like that. But overall, I mean, I think we're a pretty good group of people. So.
I 100% agree. I think overall, I want to say the criminal justice system. I know a lot of people have issues with it, and I'm not saying they're not valid at all. But overall, from what I've seen for almost going on 15 years now, the criminal justice system is by far the best out of any country, period. And I think we're making tremendous strides, and we continue to strive for perfection, even though we probably are never going to get there. But as long as that's the goal, I think we're doing everyone a service.
What do you see? I'm curious too. I'm saying you are elected, right? You everyone, they see this video, they vote for you. And you're like, what do you see your role then as, when you are a justice of the peace there? Like, how would you describe it then to the layperson?
So I think, I guess my overarching idea when I am elected is going to be community first. I want to ensure that I am not only a voice for the community, but I understand what's going on in our community. And to do that, you have to make sure that I keep in contact with the police. I have to keep in contact with the firefighters. I have to bring in our prosecutors, bring in our defense attorneys, and understand the issues that are currently going on and how, as a judge, I could best address those issues. Because broadly speaking, right, the job of a judge is to make the ultimate decision on the case, and then obviously you have your whole appellate process. But I think more than that, it's not just to make a decision on the case; it's to make a decision on the case based on the way the community wants you to, as long as you're following the law to the best of your ability. I don't want to feel like I'm going to be sitting in some isolated box. I'm just making decisions, not caring about how it affects people, not caring about anything else. You have to make sure you put the law first, and you have to also make sure that you're taking care of the community, because the community is what put you there. So my idea is to be community minded, and by saying community minded, I'm not saying, oh, I'm going to be defense oriented or I'm going to be a prosecutor oriented. I just want to be the entire community, because the entire community is going to comprise of the defendants. They're going to comprise of the victims. They're going to comprise of the police. You have to make sure you take everyone's opinion into consideration and how it affects everyone into consideration before you decide to make these impactful judgments. But I will always follow the law. Period. I had to make sure
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, make sure I have to say that.
And judges have a certain amount of discretion in their rulings within certain parameters of the law. And personal opinion, I think that's a great thing, because there are extenuating circumstances in every case. And it gives you the opportunity to say, okay, well, I understand, yes, you broke the law. However, here's, something that most people won't really see, but it was a contributing factor into why you did what you did.
Absolutely.
And so,
like, even taking it just as small as you get caught speeding, right? Well, you got caught speeding because your wife was in labor and you were trying to get to the hospital. That's obviously a lot different than you got caught speeding because you decided to leave 20 minutes late for work, right? Those are different. Both committed the same crime, but how you approach that as a judge, it has to be different because those factors are different. And you can use that aspect in almost any type of case, not even just criminal and eviction processes. Somebody's being evicted. I get it. The landlord has to make sure that they're getting their rent paid, right? I get it. They're a business and they will not be able to function if people are not paying. At the same time, maybe the person just lost their job and now they got a new job. They just need a little more time to catch up on the rent. Well, doing the balancing, maybe they only need a couple weeks to get out. I'm putting an eviction on their record, and now they won't be able to get a new apartment versus just giving them another week to be able to remove their stuff and leave voluntarily. You have to do all the balancing. And you have to obviously use the law and make sure that you understand the law so you can understand what the parameters are you can work within. Because by no stretch of the imagination can I go outside of the law. I'm not going to legislate from the bench. I'm not the legislature. We appoint them or we elect them to make sure that the laws that we have are what the community wants. And I'm elected for a different position.
It is true. I can just say from my own perspective as a defense attorney, not every case is equal. Even the charges might be the same, but it's true. And so I'm glad to hear that, because I think that's important. I know there's some judges that just, they don't care, and whatever it is, if X happens, then it doesn't matter. If that, then this, and they won't listen to any extenuating circumstance. So at least, and I know, at least from my perspective as a defense, you at least want to be heard if you have extenuating factors, mitigating factors, anything like that. You at least want to be heard, and I think at least your defendant wants you to be able to say, "Hey, look, put that out there and have it heard," so that you can consider it, and then follow the law. But no, I'm glad to hear that. Just personally,
I had a personal experience. You were talking about the traffic tickets. This was some years back, and I'm going up Rancho just before you get to Sahara, right? And all the streets are torn up, and there's like barricades and cones and everything everywhere. And for some reason, I just kind of got into the wrong section of the barricades where I shouldn't have been. You should have been this way, and here I am surrounded by barricades now. And the only way out is to make a left turn onto this street. So, of course, I make the left turn because I was going to turn around and try to get back into the flow. And blink, here he comes right up behind me, and it's writing me out a ticket. And so I went into court, and I went before the judge, and there was probably 10 people ahead of me. And I'm watching her deal with all these individuals, and I thought, this is a good judge. She's been firm, but she's been fair. And so when it was my turn to get up there, And I explained the situation to her, and she goes, well, here's what we're going to do. She says, I'm going to change this to, like a parking ticket, basically. And I left that courtroom feeling, okay, yeah, I did in fact break the law. I got a little slap on the wrist. I mean, I paid a fine. But I thought that the judge, in not only in my case, but every case I saw before me, and I thought, man, when this judge is running, I'm voting for her again because she is what we all wanted a judge to be,
Exactly.
right? So
that's
anyway.
exactly what I'm going to strive to do on the bench. I feel like I do it now as a hearing master. And what I've realized is that even when I'm ruling against someone, as long as they understand why you're ruling that way, as
Right.
long as they understand that you heard them and they understand that you are applying the law appropriately and you explain that to them, they're going to accept your decision and they're not going to leave your courtroom feeling like the system failed them. And that's because I think, and I started by saying this, that the knowledge of the system is so important to make sure that people understand everything going on, and then what the result is. If you explain it appropriately, they're gonna accept it. Like you still had to pay a fine, but
Yeah.
you left feeling like I was heard. They understand what happened, and all that's matters.
But it could have been a lot worse.
Could have been a lot worse because no situation is cookie cutter. So I don't ever want to be a judge that is just a robot,
Right.
where I'm just sitting there and saying, oh, well, X plus X is Y. Well, not necessarily. Let's figure out why X was there. Let's figure out why the other X was there. And maybe Y is going to be harsher. It could be. You may have committed 5 felonies before, and it's the exact same situation. Or maybe you're an 18-year-old kid that has his whole future ahead of him, and he just made one stupid mistake, and he's trying to figure out how we can try to ensure that he is not going to be in the system for the rest of his life.
Right.
So you have to take all that into consideration. Obviously within the parameters allowed by the legislature.
Yeah, sometimes you don't have a choice.
That is 100%.
You're stuck. This is you can't do anything else.
And I do believe in treatment. I really do. But some crimes I can't do treatment for, right?
Yeah.
If you victimize a child, if you are a repeat offender, if you're committing violent offenses that are harming our community, if you're breaking into people's houses, I can't do anything with that, right? As compared to you're homeless living on the street and you got found with a little bit of drugs, well, maybe let's figure out how we're going to get you some drug treatment. Those are significantly different to me.
Right.
So you have to be firm. You have to understand what the community needs to be safe. But at the same time, you also have to have some compassion to ensure that you're not just locking everyone up. Because everyone doesn't need to go to jail. Some people absolutely do, but everyone doesn't. So I think as long as you walk in with that mindset, you can be a good judge.
Well, I hope if the situation ever arises and I have to go into court, I hope I'm in front of you. So,
Yes.
and we're kind of running out of time. Ben, you got some stuff you want to finish up with, or
No, I'm
okay? How about Jonathan? You want to tell the people why?
Yeah.
Why should we vote for you, man?
Absolutely, yeah. So I mean, I hope you've definitely listened to my answers. They're how I feel. I definitely hope I can count on your vote. Just a little bit more about me. I'm a Las Vegas local. Went to high school here. Ultimately joined the Army after high school. Went to University of Missouri for law school. Came back because Las Vegas is home. Was at the prosecutor's office, defense attorney's office, or public defender's office, and now, like I said, I am a hearing master. So I've seen it all. Not all, but I've seen a lot. And I think I'm definitely the most qualified candidate. I'm in the community. I definitely ask you to go to my website, Cooper for Judge. It's the number 4, so Cooper, COOPER, number 4, Judge, JUDGE.com. Definitely check out my platform I'm running on, and I just hope I can count on your support. Thank you.